everyone. This is DM. You're listening to my notes. Today's notes is on the island of Yap, YAP, and Bitcoin. The Pacific island of Yap was discovered in the 12th century. Okay, you could walk from one end of the island to the other end of the island in less than a day. The main economic commodities on the island was fish, coconuts, and the luxury item of sea cucumbers. Yummy, yummy sea cucumbers. That made up the economy. So, the island was first thought to be backwater, and even a barter system was thought to be too much of a sophistication for that island. But oh boy, were they wrong. So, on the island, they discovered something called rhinestones. Okay, rhinestones are monetary units which are basically gigantic stones, circular stones with holes in the middle. The islanders on that island called these rhinestones fei, F-E-I. The bigger these fei stones were, the greater its value, and trading them and carrying them was the unusual part. Because these were gigantic stones, theft of these stones were pretty much unheard of. And one of the interesting things about it is one of the families on the island, the richest family, had a stone that was so big that it fell into the ocean, and no one doubts their wealth. See, John Maynard Keynes heard about these people, and here's a quote from him. "A people whose ideas on currency are probably more truly philosophical than any other of any country. Modern practice of gold reserve has a good deal to learn from the more logical practices of the Yap." Milton Friedman also chimed in. He said, "For a century, the civilized world regarded as a manifestation of its wealth, metal dug from deep in the ground, refined at great labor and transported to great distances to be buried again in elaborate vaults under the ground. Is the practice really more rational than the other?" So, when you have some of the greatest economic minds of their century, okay, saying, yo, you guys, look, these backwater so-called savages have a more awesome and sophisticated sense of money than you do, and you can learn from them, people tend to pay attention, and there's a couple of people that needed to pay attention to this. One being anthropologists, right? So anthropologists actually studied something along these lines. So anthropologists decided to study and see if Yap and its rhinestone money was an anomaly. It was an outlier of sorts. And they discovered something that was truly awesome and revolutionary, is the fact that no, it wasn't an outlier. And in fact, the whole theory that barter gives rise to money was wrong, right? We've always had money. We've never, in the history of our planet, ever had a barter system, at least not described in any of the anthropologic evidence. So one of the quotes of an anthropologist I'll give you is David Gerber. He says, "There is no evidence that it," being barter systems, ever happened, and an enormous amount of evidence that it did not happen. So here the question arises, all right? What is money and how did it arise? If it wasn't from a barter system, then how? How did it arise and what is it? You see, money is a system of credit accounts and their clearing that the currency represents. So coins and currency, in other words, are useful tokens to record the underlying system of credit accounts and to implement the underlying process of their clearing. So if you're not understanding it, let's go back to the Yap, all right? So the inhabitants of Yap would accumulate credits and debts in the course of their trading in fish, coconut, pigs, and sea cucumber. These would be offset against one another to settle payments. Any outstanding balances carried forward at the end of a single exchange or a day or a week might, if the counterparty so wish, be settled by exchange of currency, a fei, F-E-I, to the appropriate value. That being a tangible and visible record of the outstanding credit that the seller enjoyed with the rest of Yap. These stones basically served as tokens, big, hard-to-move tokens of the underlying process. So now we come to the final segment of our podcast where we talk about Bitcoin, okay? So we now know that money, right, isn't the physical commodity. It's not the stone. It's not the coins. It's the underlying process of credit and their clearing that is the monetary system, okay? So, knowing that, we can say that Bitcoin is a monetary system of an immense scale on a global basis that does basically these functions, right? It clears the debts and credits of its users. And then denomination of Bitcoin to the 8th power, right? A Satoshi or a mini bit or a micro bit or whatever it is, are just the representations of the underlying process of clearing that global society itself does, you see, because now we have a pan-global civilization and Bitcoin represents that pan-global money. Okay, thank you so much for listening. That was sort of my notes on the Yap and the money and all of that good jazz. Next episode will probably be about the Irish and how they did Bitcoin before Bitcoin. So if you want to listen to the second episode, you can. It'll be up sometimes in the near future. All right, have a great one. We're hoping to see you guys more in my notes. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, just leave them below and I'll get back to you as soon as I can. All right, have a great one. Bye.